What's up, everybody? Steve here. Today I want to talk about the FAR/BAR as-is contract, real estate contract in the state of Florida. I'm going to go through every single page of this contract. I wrote a blog on this as well, and it goes into even more detail if you guys want to take a look at that blog. I'll leave a link for you guys. The reason why I'm doing this video, though, is a handful of reasons. So we're real estate investors here in the state of Florida. We buy a lot of properties throughout the entire state. I've been a real estate broker since 2006, a real estate agent since 2002. In 2006, we grew our real estate firm from 06 to 2018 to about 60 agents. Over the years, I've trained literally hundreds physically face-to-face on real estate contracts, and even online with online courses. I've trained real estate agents as well, thousands of real estate agents. And now we've kind of put our hat on of more full-time real estate investors. And unfortunately, I'm seeing all these bullshit contracts from sellers who reach out to us. They call us, they say they want to sell their properties, but they locked into a contract with some investor. They're getting the runaround. The investor's trying to renegotiate the contract. They're trying to extend the contract out. And we're going to talk more about some of these contracts and what these investors do and talk more about that. But basically, I have them send me their contracts and I take a look at them. And some are on the FAR/BAR as-is contract. Other ones are not. I would be very weary of anything that's not necessarily on a state contract or attorney written in more of your behalf as well as the buyer's behalf. But there's got to be a certain level of protection that I see a lot of these investors. They're really just locking sellers into a situation where they cannot get out until that buyer doesn't perform. And sometimes these contracts drag on. So if you guys are not selling to us, I want to make sure that you guys are at least educated on the FAR/BAR as-is contract so you can at least protect yourself or ask specific questions pertaining to this. A lot that's in these contracts is going to be universal in the state of Florida. Disclosure, I'm not a real estate attorney. This is not legal advice. This is just to give you guys a better understanding of the contract. If you guys have any legal questions, be sure you speak out to the appropriate party. And let's dive into this. So right here, this is the blog that I recently put out back on January 21st, 2024. And I talked a little bit about exactly what we were talking about. I do have a handful of videos on this channel as well that really just talk detail of fake investors. And we're going to talk more about that when we get to the assignment portion of the contract, of the sales contract. On this article, I got a lot of common questions that people have. Also, the differences between the FAR/BAR as-is contract as well as the standard FAR/BAR contract. Two different things. I'm not going to go into detail on this video, but it's in this blog, so be sure you guys go over there and take a look. And we're just going to scroll down to... So I did go page by page in this as well, so if you want to reference it, take screenshots or whatever the case is, you're going to be able to see every single page of the contract and where I made notes as well. And obviously in this video, I'm going to go page by page with you guys as well. There's some additional videos to look at as well. But we're going to scroll all the way down to the actual included PDFs that I provided for you guys. And these are printable PDFs. They're downloadable so you guys can have them as a guide, not necessarily to use them, but it's completely on you. If you guys do end up wanting us to make an offer on a property that you own in the state of Florida, we're buying any types of properties in any condition. If you guys do want an offer from us, you're going to be able to expect that you're going to get this FAR/BAR as-is contract. Now, this contract is the one I use. Before we get into it, it's beneficial for both parties, the seller as well as the buyer. So how is it beneficial for the buyer or the investor? It gives us a certain amount of time during the due diligence or the inspection period to do any inspections. And then if we find out that there's a lot more to the property that more issues that we didn't readily see, then, we can come back, we can try to renegotiate, we can ask for repairs, etc. Or this is what a lot of real estate investors do. We barely do that because we usually catch most of the stuff when we first take a look at the property. But if an investor comes to you guys and says, we can't buy that property for $300,000, but we can buy it for $250,000, it allows you guys to renegotiate that or say no, take it as it is, as we discussed, or you guys can send a release and termination of the contract. And now once that inspection period ends, something has to happen, whether that buyer is going to move forward and jeopardize their escrow if they do not close, or during that period of time, as mentioned, renegotiating or canceling the contract. So let's jump into page 1. Page 1's pretty simple. It's to the point. This is going to provide the seller and buyer contact information. This is all the information pertaining to the property. I see this happen all the time where real estate investors and real estate agents don't put in the property ID and the legal description. It's very important to do that because sometimes mistakes will happen on the property address, and the last thing you want to do is have any confusion of actually putting the wrong property in contract. 21 and 25, these two lines are set up to basically you as a seller to either say you're going to include some personal property or exclude personal property. So sometimes there's people that have, say, a chandelier which is affixed to the ceiling, and they want to take that. Because that's affixed to the ceiling, you want that, you have to disclose in here at the time of the contract that you guys will be taking that. So these are things that you want to step back, pay attention to, and so forth. Now, a lot of times, people, sellers will say, I have a lot of furniture I don't want, there's trash in the property, etc. If you're working with us, there's no worries. You guys can leave all that stuff behind. No need to necessarily disclose that in here. Just give us a heads up, and then we're going to send a team out there to either donate the stuff or bring it to the dump, depending on condition and so forth. So we take care of that kind of stuff. Line 27 is your purchase price. So that's going to be basically what you guys are, going to sell the property for. Below that, now this is very important. Below that is where you're going to put the escrow amount. That's just a good faith deposit as a buyer. So a lot of investors, pay close attention to this. A lot of investors will put $0 down, or they'll put $100 down. It really, they do whatever they can to not put a whole lot of money down in escrow. So if for some reason they do not close after the inspection period, that escrow is jeopardized and they really have no skin in the game. You want an investor that's going to put money down in there that's really going to hurt if they lose it. And obviously, you want enough money in there where they're going to actually proceed, do what they say they're going to do, and actually close on the property. So make sure you're getting a little bit of a chunk of money down there. And then 33 through 35, this is the title company contact information. We write in the title company of our choice because we actually pay for the title insurance on your behalf. Many sellers in the state of Florida pay for title. And also we pay for doc stamps on the deed. That's usually a seller's expense as well. So we pay for both title as well as doc stamps on the deed. Below that, line 39, this is going to be the loan amount. If somebody makes the property contingent upon financing, this is where they're going to put how much they're going to finance. So maybe the purchase price is $300,000, and maybe they're going to finance $200,000. And then down here below is going to be the balance to close, which will be your top line up here. Subtract your escrow, subtract your finance amount, will give you this number right here. So it's basically your purchase price minus your escrow minus the amount financed to bring the balance at close. In our contracts, we're all cash, so it'll be your purchase price minus the escrow and then balance to close. So if the purchase price is $300,000, we put $10,000 in escrow. The bottom line is going to be $290,000, if that makes sense. Line 45, this is going to be your acceptance time. So when we make you an offer usually I'll ask how long do you need to review the offer, and basically this is going to be your time frame to respond to the offer. If you guys respond after the time period, so let's say we put until Wednesday to respond and you respond Thursday, then technically the offer is null and void, and we would want to basically rewrite the offer and send it over to you guys. Next page is the closing date. We usually put on or before the specific close date. So if everything is smooth and you guys are in a rush to sell the property, move on, then this allows us to actually close before the anticipated close date. Depending on the situation, if you need to close fast and we can get clear title, meaning there's no issues with the chain of title, there's no contractor liens and liens that you are not aware of or whatever the case is, then we can close as quickly as 7 days. Usually we just want to check with the title company to see if they have openings for us to close quickly like that. And also, if you guys are out of area, out of state, we tell the title company, you notify the title company of that, and they will actually hire a mobile notary to come to your house or wherever you want, sign off on all your closing docs, so you don't even need to be here locally. Scroll down. Now this is 72. We want to check that if you have an investment property that's subject to people actually living there, leasing the property. And then 83 through 85. This is very important. This is where, and I've done other videos on this, fake investors. So a lot of times what these other investors do is they try to tie up your property in hopes that they bought it at a good enough price or got it in contract at a good enough price. So let's say it's $300,000, and then they go and try to shop that property around to a bunch of different other investors and try to sell that contract for say $320,000 to another investor. And so a lot of times these guys reach out to us and try to sell us properties, try to sell the contracts to us. And we do purchase some of them, but the problem is a lot of these guys don't know how to value properties correctly, and they get into contract with a seller. They overpay. They put a price that's way higher than where they should be as an investor to buy it, fix it up, and resell it. And then that's when they come back to you, and because they couldn't line up another investor, that's when they come back to you and say, hey, Mr. or Miss Seller, because of all these repairs needed, we need to drop the price $40,000. And then you guys are all upset because they weren't truthful and everything else. So I would say in probably 95% of cases, when we make our offers, that is the offer. We rarely renegotiate unless we find something very strange going on with the property, and we rarely back out of contracts unless we find that there's really like structural issues or something that is so deranged and so costly that it doesn't make sense for you guys to accept a lower offer or for us to buy it as is and have to put in hundreds of thousands of dollars and not make a profit when we resell it. So we do assign contracts as well, but we have investors that are partners of ours. Sometimes we partner up with 50-50 partners. We do JV agreements, but our partners are here in Florida with us. And so sometimes we do assign, but not like a lot of these other guys where they're just going to tie up the contract and throw it out to the world to try to find an investor. 88 is usually what we're going to check mark. You're going to check mark one of these in terms of financing. 88 is this is a cash transaction with no financing contingency. Any investor, you probably want that because that's one more out for an investor to get out of the contract, because they could say all the way up to the last minute, all the way up to the day of closing, I didn't get financing and here's a denial letter from my bank and let me get my escrow back. We want, or at least you want, the ability to only have one contingency essentially, and that is the inspection period, besides not providing clear title. So the inspection period, when that ends, you know that that buyer is on the hook and their escrow is jeopardized if they don't close on the property. Again, any legal questions, contact a real estate attorney. So 89 is letter B. That'll give them an out for getting financing, and if they can't get a loan approval, they can back out of the contract. 132, assumption of existing mortgage. A lot of mortgages are not assumable in most cases. Some VA loans and some FHA loans are assumable, but they're few and far between. And then 133 is purchase money note, and basically that's seller financing. So while we're at this point, let me put it out there too. Sometimes we can provide a higher price, in some cases even a much higher price, if you are interested in holding long-term seller financing, and that's a property that we would actually keep as part of our portfolio. We'll buy it, we'll rent it out, and we'll keep it long-term, and then you guys benefit from consistent cash flow as well. So if that's something of interest, bring that up to us and we can have a discussion on that as well. Because a lot of times the offers that come from investors as well as us, they're much lower because we do have to put significant money into them, and then we have to basically make a profit when we go to retail market and list it and sell it. And then we have all the closing costs associated with it as well. So we have all the commissions. We got to pay doc stamps again. We got to pay the title insurance again. So we got to account for all that, plus really any caveats. You open up certain walls and then you have termite infestation that we didn't know about and you guys didn't know about, and then it becomes a mess. We're going to scroll down to 168, 172. This is who is going to pick and pay for title, and we always check 172. No home warranties, 194 and 196. This is going to be any special assessments. So let's say city water sewer came into your area and you guys got assessed on your tax bill. Who's going to pay for that? Are you going to pay for that at closing, pay it in full, or you're going to pay it up to closing and then the buyer is going to take over the balance of that in their tax bill? Or it could be a lot of times condo associations have them for deferred maintenance, etc. So you want to have this clearly spelt out with and an understanding as well. If you know there's any special assessments, have an open discussion about it, and then that can be negotiated as well. We're going to scroll down to 261. This is what I was talking about. So buyers shall have blank days after effective date for their inspection period. This is when they're going to want to do all of their inspections. Sometimes I've written offers because I've been to the property, spent a little bit of time in the property with sellers, and I said, hey, I'm going to take a risk on this. I'm not going to put any inspection period on this. If you are agreeable to our price, we're going to put $5,000 in escrow or whatever it is. If I don't close, that money is yours, and let's move forward. Sometimes we'll put a small amount of time in there. If it's a more comprehensive property or commercial property, usually we'll put 15 days in there. So, but a lot of times if it's just a basic house or something like that, any other investor, if it's a basic house, you do not want them tying this thing up in an inspection period for 30, 45, 60 days. Don't do it. You're going to spin your tires. If they're putting that much time in there, they're likely shopping that contract and trying to assign it. Really, all these other pages are just disclosures. You guys can read them at your leisure. I'm just talking about the plug and play information. Now, if we get down to page 11, these are all your addendums. So if there's anything specific to your property, like if it was built prior to 1978, you're going to want to add a lead-based paint addendum. And there's, you got defective drywall. If it's in an association, you're going to want to disclose association fees. If it's in a condo association, you're going to want to disclose those fees and have the appropriate addendum attached to this. we take care of all this paperwork for you. So if we know it's in an association, we're going to add that addendum. So you guys don't have to do anything. And obviously, if you do want to take that and bring it to a real estate attorney to review, we're more than happy for you guys to do that as well. But we handle all the paperwork on your behalf. Now, 590 to 607 additional terms. This is where we actually write in that we pay for the doc stamps as well as title insurance and a disclosure that we are real estate brokers in Florida. We scroll down. This is the signature page, dates, and then cooperating brokers. We put NA and all of not available and all of that information because you guys are not going to pay any fees to us. You're not going to pay any commissions, which will save you money there. Unless, of course, if you have an active listing agreement with a broker, you'll have to pay that broker whatever you guys negotiate if you reach out to us directly regardless, or you wait until that contract expires and then reach out to us and we can get you an offer as well. And that's about it. I'm going to leave this in the description below for you guys so you guys can read in detail. You can download this form. We actually added, if you look, I put the standard Florida contract in here as well. And now I'll quickly go through that too. Really just one big thing on this is it could obligate you as a seller to pay up to a certain amount of damages, whether it's WDOs, wood destroying organisms, or any kind of issues with the property. And that's why the as-is contract is better, because, in my opinion, because it doesn't obligate you to do any repairs. Now, a buyer can come back and ask for repairs or ask for a credit, and you at that time have the luxury of saying, no, that's not what we agreed on. I'm not doing any repairs. I'm not reducing my price. If you want out of this, send a release and termination and get out. So that is a downloadable form here for you guys as well, so you guys can take a look at that. And if you want an offer on your house, I'll put a link for you can review that blog. There's links in there, and we can get you guys an offer pretty quickly. Once you submit, just give us usually I'll reach out to you in a few hours and call you, talk to you about the property, see what you guys, what your needs, what your wants are, and we'll write it up, and if it works, then we'll put something together. Anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate it.